Well, welcome to Shift2Growth,
Hey, thanks, Don.
where we listen to the best marketers in the world to gain insight and perspective and best practices. And today I've got a rock star, a mentor of mine, Mark Coronna, area managing partner at Chief Outsource. Mark is awesome to work with. What I love about Mark, and Mark, what I love about you, I'm now talking to you, is that how you can take marketing, sales, operation, and all aspects of the business and build growth strategies. And you've taught me that, so I appreciate that. Another thing I appreciate about Mark, not only being the super rock star, but he's also a Big Tenor. So he is a undergrad of Wisconsin and an MBA at Northwestern. So he's even super smart. And of course, I went to Ohio State, so he's probably got a couple on me. So Mark, hey, tell the audience a little bit about you, and then we'll get going.
Yeah, well, thanks, Don. Yeah, you and I get along great. I appreciate all the kind words, and except for those few times a year when Wisconsin and Ohio State tangle, right?
Yes.
And then we know better to try to talk to each other, but
yes,
it's all good, right? So, well, I've just been blessed with lots of opportunities in my career. You talked about sales, marketing, operations. I started out in my career in sales management, and then I picked up marketing, and then marketing and sales, and then marketing, product and sales, and just kept going, right? But along the way, I was offered opportunities to be a chief information officer, and as well as a CMO and a chief operating officer, and I managed a couple of businesses in London for a couple of years. So I appreciate that. It's great to be on the show and kind of talk about things that are important to your audience. My viewpoint often is kind of colored from lots of different sort of functional views, right? And I don't think you can divorce sales from marketing today. I don't think you can divorce growth from an operations plan either. So it's been great to sort of be able to put some of those combinations together.
Well, and I think a gift you have is leading people and listening to people and really helping people where they're at to grow. So not only do you grow the organizations with, you're growing the people around you. And you've done that in my case. Now, with that said, we always ask 3 questions. And remember, we're 15 minutes here. One is, what cool project are you working on? What trends are affecting the organizations you're working with? Could be a positive or negative trend. And then what's a cool app that you love doing? So you could do either in any order, but I know that I have just got a hot copy of a paper that you wrote about diversification. So is that the cool project you're working on?
Yeah, I think probably is right now. And, it's kind of evolved in the sense that, I've always been a growth champion, right? For lots and lots of years. And I was formerly a growth champion when I was hired to set up an internal business accelerator and incubator for a Fortune 200 company, and then was able to do that for some other Fortune organizations. But what sort of with the focus of growth, I've said, there's 5 drivers of growth challenge, right? You can be stuck and not growing. You could be heading the wrong way. You can be growing nominally, but your market's growing faster. You can be challenged with accelerated growth because you might have a record year, and then the board says, hey, what would it take for you to double a business now that you've just kind of hit a new performance level? But the one that I think, the big growth driver, Don, that I think is the big one these days is diversification. And too many businesses get stuck with too few customers and too few markets. And then and this can be a problem even without events like a pandemic, which, if you were a large supplier of restaurant equipment last year or this year, you're going to be in for a tough life, right? Because there's plenty of equipment on the market, used equipment, because the market's not going to grow. It could be a couple of years before the restaurant market really rebounds, right? I work with one company in the construction industry that's got 86% of their business with one customer. That is the ultimate in concentration, right? And it's they're a sizable business, but the customer is a big municipality. If municipalities are sort of known for political shenanigans, right? And so it wouldn't take much for someone to bring in a competitor, right? And then how do they continue to sort of grow their business and retain their level of profitability? So I think diversification is a hot topic right now.
And how are you leading people through? As I want to get a hold of you and say, hey, can you really look at this? What are some tips you can give us about where do you start?
Yeah. Well, you start with your current business and your assets and capabilities, right? Because even if you were going to do something that looked kind of transformational, you wouldn't be able to do it in a very short period of time, right? And you don't want to throw away anything that you've got that creates value for your business today. For those companies that are either, concentrated in customers and or concentrated in markets, I usually take them through a growth planning process called Horizon Growth, which creates it's a very structured operational discipline that allows you to generate a number of ideas about where your future revenue and profit opportunities might be, but then allows you to profile them, compare them, prioritize them, look at charts like how big is the opportunity versus the time to market, how big is the opportunity versus the risk. So it gives you some intelligence in clarifying your view of your organization's future opportunities. And we build it on your value prop and your existing assets and capabilities. Sometimes they're okay to kind of get you to the next kind of growth area. Sometimes you're going to need to invest in new operational competencies or capabilities to kind of support some of the growth that might be out there for you.
Yeah, I want to be additive. I agree a gazillion percent. I was with a company in the Midwest and industrial, and you're talking about markets, going to different markets and that type of thing. They actually had engineering services fabricated, and they fabricated big, large capital equipment and then maintained it. Well, where we found that they can go to other markets is with their engineering capabilities, because they had one of the largest engineering capabilities in Wisconsin. And they started growing that, going into different businesses that were adjacent to what they were doing. One of my favorites is the Wii, because now that's going across demographics. Because the Wii had the gamers back in the day, but then the non-gamers got to use the Wii, and then the parents got to use the Wii, and then the grandparents. So they hit all these markets that they weren't even intending to hit, to see that, oh my gosh, we can go across demographics. So that's even another way to look at your business, is who is your demographics, and can we go to another demographic?
Yeah.
Or another geography.
Yeah. Well,
right?
There's two ways of thinking about growth, Don. I think one is kind of the inside out view. This is what we make. Well, who else can we sell it to, or where else can we sell it? Right. And there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of engineering and manufacturers, technical businesses kind of think and operate on that dimension. The other way is sort of what I call outside in, which is really trying to understand market dynamics, key customer sets, really try to get into needs, pain, as we talk about pain points, right? And then seeing and then trying to match that up with your capabilities and competencies, right? And I like to think probably some of the better opportunities for any organization are those which sort of meet halfway between, hey, this is something I can do, and this is a market that seems like it's a good fit for those, my value proposition and those things, those products and services that I offer, right? And so if you've got kind of the inside out and outside in, and you meet in a sweet place, then you probably got a market of interest to you, right?
So interesting. In my vernacular, being an engineer and you being an operations kind of background, we call that prototyping and testing. In the marketing world, we call that A/B testing, right? So
yeah.
Same thing, but you're building a prototype, trying to run it, seeing where you can get some traction, and then it continue to adjust. And that's where marketers, you have to be patient with us, because we're creative, but we do our homework. So you're really getting a lot of insights, and then trying to be creative in how to take that gold or that value prop and present it to other markets. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. What trend do you see that's affecting customers' businesses, or what trend do you see out there that you're watching and you're maybe taking advantage of or running away from?
Well, this trend towards increased digital technology support is huge, right? And, the McKinsey report that came out just a week or so ago, the one that talked about sort of 8 charts to kind of redefine how COVID-19 is changing the way
Right.
B2B organizations will sell and market, I think we're going to look back on that as a bellwether kind of report, right? Because what it says is that, now that people have experienced more digital interaction, they want that. They don't want to talk on the phone. They'd rather do a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting, right? They're, 70 or 80% say, hey, I'm willing to buy, $1 million products online, right? Things like online chat, online forms of customer interaction. I think even the smallest companies are going to need to wake up and pay attention to this, right? And you can't do it all at once. You need a really sort of a good planful roadmap to execute on the digital opportunities. But boy, I mean, we're not going back to a world where, with lots of trade shows and lots of in-person sales visits, and it's going to be different, and it's going to be different on an ongoing basis. It's not going to, recover to where it was. It's going to look different.
Well, it's interesting you said that, because your statement before on hire companies to diversify was learning their value prop and how they can solve pain. When you do the digital campaigns, you gotta be able to project that so people are interested to look at you. We know that, and even Gartner says 70% of the how would you want to say, the buyer journey is complete before they even call somebody.
Yeah.
So that's really scary. So what you're saying is right on target. And so how people I could see is it's really hard for them to shift from 5 salespeople to 3 salespeople in marketing, to a marketing ops and a marketing person.
Right.
And that's the hardest thing. And those people that are shifting, like you said, are going to win, because this is now a B2B, B2C play. It doesn't matter.
Right. And, I mean, I've had 2 opportunities to be the e-commerce executives for 2 large Fortune businesses.
What haven't you done, dude? What haven't you not done?
I've never run HR, and I've never run accounting, because nobody ever let me get that close to dollars or people. But the idea is that, a lot of what you can do with digital technology, and by the way, I call it business transformation using digital technologies. It's not digital transformation, it's business transformation, because you have to take a business first mindset to do this well. But there are plenty of opportunities to offer new digital interaction with customers that actually allow you to reduce your cost structure, right? And customers are happier, they're more satisfied. And so here's, a simple example would be just allowing them to do simple part reorders, or simple product reorders without having to talk to anybody. Just go online, just, click the buttons, and, you kind of reorder. Now, that's going to save any organization some headcount and make them more productive in their order entry and front end of their business.
Yeah, I agree. And, because your competitors are going to do it anyway. So why don't you be first? Last question.
You got it.
What app do you like to use? What do you like to putz around with that really makes you efficient, or your client efficient?
What app do I like to use? As high tech as my life has been, actually the one I'm looking at right now, I think is going to be pretty cool, is we're putting up a new website for a business, and it's a manufacturer, but I said we're gonna feature people, right? The website was pretty sterile of any human interaction, right, or human faces or whatever. So we're gonna fix that. But I found an app that you can actually take a business photo and turn it into a line drawing or an art picture. So instead of having
what is it?
Well, I guess you can do this with a couple of different sort of like Photoshop. I didn't know that. I don't use Photoshop myself, but there's a bunch of free apps out there that basically, you can take a Don or a Mark headshot and turn it into a line drawing or more of an artistic picture, which would be a lot less traditional than having a bunch of headshots out there, right?
Why do you like that?
Well, because I just think it's a way of being intrusive and innovative, right? rather than being, I mean, it's like, otherwise, yeah, okay, here's the management team, and, it's like the same old stuff, right? Well, okay, you can still present the management team, but how about in a little bit more interesting, fun way that you can actually get to know their personalities too?
Got it. Any other thing that I've asked my questions? Is there anything that you would let our audience know that they can grow from, knowing from your knowledge and your career?
No, well, I mean, you and I have done some podcasts together and some other things. And, one of the guys I had on a podcast in October had the best 2 words of advice that I've heard anybody give in the last 6 months. It's like, get moving, right?
All right. Well, I love that. Now, let's end it with that. So,
All
Mark
right.
Coronna, thank you so much. You guys can find Mark Coronna on the chiefoutsiders.com site. You can also look for him in LinkedIn, and you'll also see in the credits here all his information. But thank you, Mark, for helping others get perspective on what you do and sharing your career and what went right, what went wrong. Keep making a difference. I really appreciate you in my life, and I sure all us Chief Outsiders just really value your wisdom. So for the audience, I'm going to end this way. Be curious, be creative, and challenge the status quo for growth. Thanks, everybody.
That's great guidance, Don. Thanks.